Okay, so before we get into tonight's episode of America's Hometown Horror, I just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, and that sponsor today is DB Journey. DB Journey is a Scandinavian brand that makes backpacks and bags to help people on the move stay ready for anything. From the streets to the peaks, DB Journey's gear is travel tested by some of the world's best athletes, adventurers, and creators. Over the past decade, DB Journey has designed and developed, released and refined the best bags in the market. With DB's patented hookup system, you're able to attach smaller products to your backpack, roller, or tote bag. We here at America's Hometown Horror are teaming up with DB to exclusively offer our listeners 10% off your next purchase by using the code POD10, that's POD10, or go to the link in our show notes. DB Journey, it's time to move on and time to get going. And away we go. All right, folks, what's going on? How you doing? Welcome into another episode of America's Hometown Horror. My name is Mike, and I am your host, flying solo today. Hope everyone is having a good Halloween season. And I wanted to record this little introduction for this awesome interview that I just had a chance to do with Alexandra from a website called HalloweenNewEngland.com. If you are a fan of Halloween in general, or haunted attractions, haunted hair rides, pumpkin patches, pretty much anything Halloween related, this is a website that you need to know about. She does a fantastic job kind of distilling every Halloween experience in New England into one cohesive website where you're able to search by category, search by zip code. It really is an awesome website, and like I mentioned, if you're a fan of Halloween, this needs to be on your radar. So we talk a lot about her website, a lot of the haunted attractions that she's been through throughout her years doing the website, and some other really fun stuff as well, and including being turned into a prop that you can actually see at multiple haunted attractions throughout the region and also the country. So that was a pretty cool story as well. Super nice, super friendly, and super forthcoming with stories. I really enjoyed talking to Alexandra from HalloweenNewEngland.com. So stay tuned for that interview. That'll be coming up in just a second. And also just wanted to let you guys know that since we work so hard to bring you horror content all throughout the year, but we are in Halloween season, so we're working a little bit extra hard for you guys. This is our second episode this week, and we're going to be doing another 2-episode week next week. We're going to have for you a review of VHS 94, which is the Shudder exclusive. That'll be out on Monday. And then at some point later in the week, we will also have a full review for Halloween Kills, which is out now. So, without further ado, here is my interview with Alexandra from HalloweenNewEngland.com. Please enjoy. All right, folks, we have a special one here today, and what I can tell you is that, if you've listened to our show before, you know how big of fans of haunted attractions we are across the country, and more specifically New England, because unfortunately we can't travel around the country as much as we'd like to. But if you have not heard of a website called Halloween New England, then you need to know about this website. Anything that you want to see related to haunted attractions, Halloween events in the New England area, this website does just that. And I am lucky enough today to be joined by the person behind Halloween New England, Alexandra. Hi, Alexandra. How are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks so much for taking the time to hop on the show. I know that you are right in the middle of your busy season, so I do appreciate you taking the time.
I am happy to do it. This is definitely the time where there's lots to talk about, rather than just anticipating what's coming down the pipeline this season. But
Yeah.
there's so much happening right now. We are in the thick of it in the middle of
Yeah.
October.
Yeah, and I know I have to say I am envious of all of the attractions that you go to. It's awesome that you have the time to be able to do that. I know that communicating back and forth with you, you've been to a bunch already. So what are some of the ones that you've been to before so far this season? I know that you and I have both gone to Barrett's Haunted Mansion, right?
Yes. So I kicked off my haunt going this year at Barrett's. Which was
Nice.
fantastic because their 30th anniversary year, they really just outdid themselves. And as you know, and you've talked about, and anyone who's been there can certainly attest, they always just bring it every year. And this year is super special in terms of the level of what they've done. They just outdo themselves. They bring so much creativity. It always feels fresh. And I don't know how they managed to do a completely new show every year. It really quite impressive. So that was an amazing way to start the season. Although, it's no secret I have a fear of Clown One, who is one of their iconic characters. And so I have to admit that I made it through Condemned and was able to see everything. And once I made it into the mansion, it was a different story.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there were, to this
The
day, I
first room
actually,
in the house.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the first room, there is a Clown One, which again, it in some ways it doesn't really matter if it's the actual Clown One, because there's a point where once I see, the costume, like that's enough. I don't need to look in his eyes to know if it's a true one. So
Yep.
so that was a going through the mansion was for me totally terrifying. I went through with my team and they were great. I think, had a great time watching me try to manage it. But I give them so much credit because although I have to say, and this is a little known fact, I found a Clown One sticker in my car the next morning. So I got into my car in the garage and I look down and I see something on the floor on the passenger side, and there's a sticker of Clown One on the floor. Now my car was locked. I did not
Wow.
drive there with anyone. I don't know how it got in there, but that was not a great way to start my next day.
Oh,
So,
I can imagine. That's pretty creepy. Wow.
oh yeah, I don't have an explanation for it. I just know that it happened,
Yeah.
and I
Wow.
certainly didn't
That's
put it there
super
myself.
weird. Yeah. So
Yeah,
how awesome was Condemned this year? I thought that was, I mean, the house was
beautiful.
great at Barrett's, but I actually thought that was the more impressive of the two. They were both awesome, but I just thought that the scale of everything they did and
Mm.
just the detail was incredible.
Well, again, because I saw more of Condemned with my eyes open. It is. It was so detailed. There was so much care put into it, and the whole event, the attraction from start to finish, was just really, really thoughtfully put together and designed. And one of the things that I loved is just how complete the characters were. I loved the way that they are the actors are masked in this haunt, which I really appreciate. um, and that's same in Condemned as well as in the mansion. All the actors were masked, so I shout out to them for continuing to do that. I as a customer, I really appreciate
Yep.
that. And rather than having, just your generic black mask on, they even incorporated the mask with lots of details so that not only are you, taking that extra measure for the actor's safety as well as the customer's safety, but the masks became part of the costume. They were, detailed to really integrate with the particular character, which I don't know who's responsible for that, but I really appreciated that. And I thought that was such a nice
Sure.
detail. I actually haven't seen that to the same degree yet this year at the places I visited. So um, I was hoping to see more of that, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that they were taking that step and that they did it in such a thoughtful way.
I agree, and I actually noticed that last year too when I went to Screens
Hmm.
and Screams. A lot of the characters that were walking around in the lot kind of had the same thing going on, which is, I think it's
Hmm.
just an extra layer of detail that you throw in there that kind of gives you a little bit more of that immersion and makes it feel takes away the like the just the like you said the generic mask element, which I thought was really cool. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
honestly, when you think of your haunted house experiences before COVID, a big part of that is having, haunt characters in your face, right up against your ear. They might not touch you, but they're right there in your face. They're screaming at you or, blowing on your hair or what have you. Maybe you don't have that problem, but I certainly do. And um, so I mean, if you've had that kind of experience, which many of us have at haunted houses, you don't know what steps the haunts have taken. Here we are in 2021 to be able to adapt their show and the way that their actors are respecting your space so that people can still feel confident going to events, whether they're indoors or outdoors, just to have, a little bit more personal space. So, again, I felt like for me, everybody at Barrett's was so considerate of that, and it didn't take away, having that distance didn't take away from the intensity of the experience in any way, shape, or form. So I really, really value it when, and this goes for anything, even in non-COVID times, I really value it when I go through an attraction and it feels like they've done everything they can for a truly safe experience so that you're not, tripping over things, hitting your head, on crawl throughs. Like those little things make such a difference. I've been to haunts where, you'll hear other customers say, "Oh, the scariest thing about this haunt is, twisting my ankle." Is if I can get out alive. And you think, "Oh, this isn't like, that's not what it should be about." It's like worrying about the way that you're stepping through a haunt. You should be able to just immerse yourself in the environment. So,
For sure.
thankfully, many haunts do take a lot of care, but those who kind of go above and beyond, I really value.
Awesome. Well, good. I'm glad you had a good time at Barrett's, and I know I kind
Yeah.
of gave a brief introduction of your website, but I'm sure there was a few things I missed in there. So, for anyone
Mhm.
who's unfamiliar with Halloween New England, why don't you tell us a little bit about your site, what you guys do, and
Sure.
also I wanted to ask you why create Halloween New England? What drove you to create this website?
Yeah. So I started it back in 2013. Um, Started it solo and have been running it solo until this year. This is the first year that I brought in more people to sort of brought in my team. And, it's been an incredible journey. And in the beginning, in 2013, it was kind of, I don't actually know if this is the time that it really started, but at that time, it became quite accessible to be able to start your own website, build your own website. So, those kinds of things were a little bit more do it yourself, programs available. So I had started the website initially um, with a broader look at all things Halloween and fall in New England. So it was called Halloween New England, but it included daytime corn mazes and daytime hay rides and apple orchards, like all the kind of fall activities. And it was just
Sure.
overwhelmingly broad. In year two, I separated it into, daytime activities into a separate website. And then the Halloween website really drilled down on nighttime events and things that were very specifically Halloween if they were during the day. So if you see hay rides, they're nighttime hay rides, haunted hay rides. If you see corn mazes on Halloween New England, you're going to see them, either flashlight corn mazes or haunted corn mazes. And I just, really quickly realized at the beginning that it needed to be more specific and just more related to the Halloween experience, atmosphere. So when you visit Halloween New England, you see guides broken down by the 6 New England states. So if you live in New Hampshire, you can visit the New Hampshire guide for haunted houses. So you'll list all of the haunted houses that you can find in the state of New Hampshire, or all the costume stores that are in New Hampshire, all of the haunted hay rides or haunted corn mazes or ghost tours. And then I added Halloween events because, of course, there's many little short-term events, such as a pumpkin festival. It could be a local pumpkin festival or an outdoor drive-in, Halloween movie night in Vermont. There are all these little community events as well as larger events that, aren't necessarily an attraction that fits under a category like a ghost tour or a haunted hayride. Um, but again, they're a little bit more short-term events as opposed to seasonal attractions. Like, let's say, a haunted hayride might be available the whole month of October. Um, and I started it because, I was trying to find that information myself. And although it existed, it really felt like I was visiting a million websites to try to find the information that I wanted, and there wasn't enough in one place. And when I would stumble across a website that, was trying to be more of a directory, that would list all of the events in a particular state, I just found it really challenging to be on that website. The information was, for me, it was really disorganized. It was, a lot of like flashing and blinking ads. Like, I just found it really hard to be on the site to find the information I wanted. So, for example, if I
Sure.
wanted to find Connecticut events, I wouldn't even find Connecticut events. There'd be all Massachusetts events on there. And I would think, but it's a Connecticut website. Like, I don't understand. And yet, as a New Englander, we really do look at our whole region as, especially in the fall, as a place to be enjoyed and to savor the season, to savor the foliage and the atmosphere and everything that this time of year really offers us, living in this part of the country. And so I felt like taking a regional approach was really important, and to encourage people to go outside of their own backyard to see what's available. And I know for me, I'm a very organized person. So, having a website that was going to organize the information was just like first and foremost the whole point of having a website like Halloween New England. I wanted it to be easy for people to find what they wanted and to find it quickly. Um, so that's how it started. And it just continues to, I'd say once I narrowed my focus in 2014 to just the Halloween and nighttime events, it just really took off from there. So, um, I try to visit as many events as I can during the season. I, start as early as I can. So in a lot of ways, I'm researching these events. I'm confirming, thousands of event dates every year personally. I make sure that everything that goes on there is as accurate as possible. Every haunt guide is double checked, to make sure that when the season comes, that people aren't being sent to wrong information. And I use that not just for everyone else's benefit, I put that up there, but it's for my own. I want to get the most out of the season too. And so in some ways I get first crack at it when I do all that research, is being able to plan, where am I going to be?
Sure.
What's new this year? Seeing things, the planning of a Halloween season. I'm not the only one who wants to do a million things every Halloween season. So I created a website that allows people to, really fulfill their Halloween dreams in this area and have everything at their fingertips.
That's awesome. I mean, such a great idea. I have to tell you, I wish I had thought of it myself, because it's such a good idea. Having everything all in one place, organized, like you said. I mean, I was looking at the website again this morning, as I often do, to try and figure out what I want to do around the Halloween season. And I mean, where else can you go where you can literally type your zip code in and see where a haunted hayride, the closest haunted hayride, is to you, which is just so cool.
Yeah, so that is brand new this year, the zip code option. We have a brand new overhauled website this year, and it's, we built it from the ground up over the last 18 months. It shouldn't have taken that long, but here we are. And
Sure.
it continues to grow. So like next year, there's going to be even more, features that we'll be adding to roll out to make it even easier. But yeah, the zip code search, again, like, people think of using Google to find this information, but the truth is, Google has its own algorithms. It's already filtering that information before it gets to you. So Halloween New England is not filtering that information before it gets to you. It really is showing you, if you punch in your zip code, it's really showing you all the events in the area related to Halloween that, order of closest to furthest away, that's going to be of benefit to you. And you can sift through that and find what events you want to see, what makes sense to you. And, there's people who just, the super fans sometimes are, like me, I look at a haunt guide and I think I'm going to do all of these haunted attractions, or I'm going to hit up every one of these ghost tours in the state this year. I'm going to make sure I hit them all. And that helps, if I'm just looking at Connecticut, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing all these things in Connecticut, and it's easy to find that. But the truth is, there's lots of
Sure.
people who are just looking for something in their area coming up soon. Or, I think of, a lot of friends of mine who are moms. They have, teenagers who aren't, able to drive yet. And, their kids are at the age where they want to go to some of these events, and the parents don't necessarily want to go with them. They want to drop them off for a few hours.
Right.
And, one of the benefits I think of Halloween New England is, that mom can, either punch in their zip code, or they can say, we live in Connecticut. I don't care where I have to drive them, as long as that attraction is big enough that I can drop them off for a few hours. Because the truth is, not every event is, a multi-hour affair. But if you go to my website, you'd be able to see, oh, this haunted attraction has, they have multiple attractions. They also have, rides available, and you get a sense of the scale of an event. So you know if it's a bit more of an efficient experience or if it's something that you're going to spend, in the case of Barrett's, as we spoke about before, you'll see, oh, I can, have dinner there and take part in the bite and fright. And that, that's a place now my kid, my teenager is able to have dinner. They're able to go through the haunt. I'll pick them up in a couple hours. And it looks like a safe environment for me to be able to do so.
Awesome. So I think, you have quite the following on Instagram. I think it's safe to say that people gravitate towards your content, especially coming up on this time of the year. So why do you think people enjoy going to these events and scaring themselves so much? Inflicting that much pain on themselves?
Well, not everybody does. Let's at least
True.
say that. Let's, shout out to the people who don't like to be scared. Like, we see you, we hear you.
Yep.
But for the people who like to be scared, and I count myself like right at the top of the list, look, this area is primed for it, right? You have the changing of the seasons. Things get, foggy. They get crisp at night. There's nothing. I just think of like all those times I've been up to New Hampshire where just the fog is rolling in and you're thinking, is that the haunted attraction or is that natural? And you realize, like, oh, it's natural. Like, it's natural fog, on a cool October night, and, the temperature drops, and, the haunts or other attractions, they bring out the bonfire and the cider donuts, and there's just so much atmosphere around it. And as far as being scared, I mean, I grew up on horror movies, in the 80s, and so I really
Same.
Yeah, it's funny thing is I don't know. I definitely was too young to be watching it. Like, again, I'm completely dating myself, but my parents would drop me off at the video store and just let me pick whatever I wanted to watch for the weekend. And so I would gravitate to the horror movie section. And so I would watch, that was just my favorite thing to watch. And, certainly, again, like, way too young to be watching a lot of these, but I just loved the intensity of it. I love the theatricality of horror movies. And so for me, that seed was planted really at a young age. I mean, no one was watching those movies with me, it was just like me and Freddy Krueger, in the room alone. And I would watch them over and over. So I always loved that sense. And, I certainly would love to read horror. I remember, reading my first Stephen King, book, and just loving that sense of it. And even, and now that I'm thinking of it, I was even younger when I found some like super creepy, like young adult, chapter books that had kind of a horror twist to them. And, and then when my background really is in the technical side of theater. So, when I kind of grew out of horror movies and became a teenager myself, I was really immersed in, lighting design and scenic design, this like the theatrical side the technical side of theater. And so that was what, for me, like, really, I gravitate towards that interactive, sense of things, the performance aspect, the kind of larger than life, part of course, of theater. But I think that is, for me, a big part of why I gravitate towards haunts as well. As I just love, to me, I don't know that a lot of professional, like, theater professionals would agree with me, although I'm a retired theater professional. So I certainly feel this way, which is haunted houses are just a different genre of, professional theater. And I look at the experience as, just taking everything to the next level. And it's, deeply, deeply challenging what actors have to do to be able to engage customers, to make them feel different things. You don't know when the group of customers is coming through, what exactly it is that's going to scare them. So you have to be, really versatile in terms of how you try to scare or interact with people. It's just a very difficult job. And, for me, when I look at, haunted houses, it's just, again, an extension of theater. And I think a lot of people do feel that way. I do actually come across quite a few people who love haunted attractions who also have, some love of theater as well. So I do think people
Yeah.
who just do gravitate towards things that might be larger than life in that sense, or, just love that emotion, that comes, again, I'm happiest sitting, in a theater watching a play as I am, at a haunted house. I just love feeling that deep emotion, that deep connection to the environment or the world that's being created around me. So I don't think I'm alone in kind of loving, just even if it's not being scared, just being startled, just having that unexpected moment, that emotional experience is, people love all different kinds of things. And I just think feeling that heightened emotion is a real appeal.
For sure. And I think honestly, people like to feel scared in a safe
Mm,
environment, right? You walk through
yes.
these haunted attractions and you know that someone really isn't going to cut you in half with a chainsaw. It's fake.
Yeah.
But you
Yes.
still have that thrill of being scared without actually being in danger. Kind of like going on a roller coaster, which I know, that's the
Yeah.
thrill for me, So,
Yeah,
and
I mean, I like that too, roller coasters. So yeah, I'm sure there's
me
a
too. Me
correlation.
too. And it sounds like we had very similar upbringings with exposure
Mm,
to horror movies at way too young of an age. Thanks, Dad.
yeah.
I appreciate it. And I kind of feel the same way. I just think that being a New Englander, you are kind of hardwired to gravitate towards Halloween because of
Mm,
the way the region is. I feel like fall is just such a huge deal here. It's my favorite season, always
mm,
has been.
mhm.
And I don't know. I just there's just something about living here that just kind of makes you love Halloween, or at least in my opinion. So
Yeah, it just gets bigger and bigger every year, and I don't remember seeing nearly as many, yards decorated, and I don't even
yeah,
mean like yard haunts. I mean like just yard decorated homes, decorated, I mean, again, thanks to all those companies who are creating, those different ways of making it easy to decorate your home, at
yep,
Christmas time. But even my neighborhood is just like all of the sudden it's just exploded with like cobwebs and spiders. And
it's awesome.
I
It
have a
makes me
bunch of
so
new
happy
neighbors.
every time I
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, I've lived here for a while, and I've until this year, I've never like driven down the street and seen as many decorations as I do now. And I come across more adults than ever who just readily admit, "Oh, Halloween is my favorite season." And I just don't remember hearing that before. I don't know. I think a lot of people thought of Halloween as a kid's season, and people just don't in any way feel that way anymore. People really genuinely embrace Halloween as potentially, their favorite
Yeah,
holiday, and
yeah,
something that just maybe awakens the kid in them, or makes them just feel, I don't know, feel excited and thrilled, or again, like we're talking about things that are, I think, more scare related, but there's so many ways that people do experience it. And, one of the things I've really had a pleasure doing more and more of in recent years through Halloween New England is going to the many incredible ghost tours that are around the area. And that also, it seems like there are more ghost tour companies that are popping up every year, or you have like a regular historical tour company that's adding
yep,
Halloween programming. And you get some of these companies that they're so creative. Like I just can't help, I can't help but say, like, there's a few of them that I've been to that, are just they've programming all month long, and not just like their normal ghost tours, but all these extra events. So one of the things that's coming up in this next week is there's a couple of companies that are offering spooky stories. One's a spooky story dinner. Another company in Concord is doing a, spooky story by fireside, and those are the kinds of things that appeal to, again, a wide range of ages and people who don't want to be scared or startled or scream or have anything pop out at them, but love, again, that feeling, that emotional feeling of a little bit of unease, that's like
yep,
just thinking of
yep.
like ghost stories at camp, around the campfire. Like it's just, we all have a little place in us who, that likes that that kind of mysterious experience. And is it true? Could it really have happened? And then, of course, you get people who've had those experiences in their own home or their place of work, or heard from someone who had that, and it just adds to that level of like, do you believe? Did this happen to you? And I love just seeing again the wide variety of experience as the ways that people can experience it. And ghost tours are an incredible way for people to enjoy that without being afraid, or afraid of having things pop out of them. And a lot of ghost tours are really
Right.
suitable for all ages. You just got to check, because sometimes the content is a little grisly. It just depends.
Sure.
And one of the things I've seen this year, which is super cool, is cemetery tours for kids, which is brilliant, because kids totally
Yeah.
love, this kind
Wow.
of stuff too. And maybe they would enjoy a conventional ghost tour, that's for all, adults primarily, but suitable for kids. But why not, help kids understand, how to be respectful in a graveyard, how to understand, the markings on the stones, and what can they learn, and really taking a historical approach to it, and teaching kids how to be curious about history and about these environments, and learn how to be that way in a respectful way as well. And so I just love seeing that kinds of stuff, and that's new this year. I have never seen anything like that until this year. So shout out to the Concord Tour Company for doing that kind of program.
Yeah, that's a first for me too, but very creative,
Yeah.
very cool. I mean, I love the ways that,
Yeah.
that people think of trying to incorporate Halloween into everything. It's just so cool. So I also wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, I know that your website is obviously called Halloween New England, but I'm assuming that you've probably had the chance to visit haunted attractions around the country as well. Have you had a chance to do that? And if so, anything that
Yes.
stood out to you?
Yes. Yes. So what I will say is, I have visited a bunch around the country, probably over a dozen.
Nice.
I am in New England during Halloween. So, there's more than enough that I am really immersed in here. It's very challenging for me to get away. So, if I can find a haunted attraction somewhere else where I can zip there really quickly, like an overnight flight or something like that, uh, you know, typically they would have to be open, pretty early in September or pretty late in November for me to fit it in. Um, I have done, oh my gosh, I've been to really every pocket, almost every pocket of the country. So I've seen ones in Seattle. I've been down to Netherworld in Atlanta.
Oh,
Um,
I'd love to go to Netherworld. That one
yeah,
is
well,
on my
that's an
bucket
easy
list.
trip from New England because it's
Yeah.
actually really cheap to get down there, and there's a million flights, and there's a hotel nearby. Like, it's super easy to do that trip. I don't think I was even there 24 hours and I was already back in
Wow.
Massachusetts. So yeah, Netherworld's an easy trip, I mean, it does involve a flight, but it is an easy way to get there from
Sure.
New England. Let's see, road trip wise, like I did a road trip last year to Field of Screams in Pennsylvania, which was pretty great. I've done a bunch in the Chicago
That's another one I
area.
want to go to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Field of
yeah,
Screams.
I've been down to Louisiana. I've seen a few down there. Although I should
Louisiana
say
has some good
I
ones.
didn't. Yes, I unfortunately I had to go there. I was there on vacation in New Orleans, and so those it was more like I had a tour of them outside of the season. So I have not, for example, seen 13th Gate in its glory when it's in full full with customers and actors, which
Yep.
I do think I would like to do, although I know there's a snake pit there and I am not fond of snakes. So um I do think that would really test test what I can handle. I did go through Statesville Haunted House outside of Chicago, and they do have live animals there, and that freaked me out. But that
Oh,
was
that
a pretty impressive haunt. I've been
sounds
up
like it.
to, yeah, I've seen Terror on the Fox in Wisconsin. That's gorgeous and detailed. I've been out to Denver. I've been to oh my gosh. Yeah, a little bit everywhere. 13th floor, Chicago. I've been to Eastern State Penitentiary. Um,
Wow.
yeah. let's see, that's, I'd say, yeah, that's probably like the good rounds of where I've been around the country. I know that,
you're well traveled haunt wise. That's
yeah.
excellent. I
Well,
hope
on my
to
bucket
one
list
day have
is,
gone to as many.
well, you will, right? You've got time, and it
I
does
do.
take some planning. It does take a little planning. Um, and honestly, one of the ways that I love Halloween just in this area in New England is I try to hit up, if I can, try to hit up more than one event in a night if it's possible. So partly because, the season is short, I try to see as much as I can, as much variety as I can during the season. Um, so for me, if I'm able to visit 2 attractions in an evening, I absolutely will do that. So there's certain pockets that you can do that in. You know, it's a little more challenging out of state because I don't know enough about those haunts, but I do think hopefully in the coming year or two, I want to make it out to Nashville because there's 2 haunts out there. I would love to be able to see 2. Nashville Nightmare would be great. So, and I think I can do those in a night. And then around here, you can totally do, like last weekend I did Factory of Terror and Fear Town in the same night. I've definitely done Fear Town and 13th World in the same night before. In Connecticut, there's quite a few haunts and more seem to be added every year. So
Yep.
sometimes you can fit in 2 in a night in Connecticut. You can certainly, sometimes you can fit in a ghost tour and then go to a haunt after that. I've done the Seaside Shadows tour and then gone to Dark Manor, later that evening because they're open quite late. So it works really nicely to be able to fit in 2. But that really involves doing things often earlier in the season when the lines are not quite as crazy as they are in the middle of October. But I would
Sure.
encourage people to, and that, again, that's for me, I use my own website to be able to figure out, what's close enough to be able to manage that. And, thankfully, the way that we built it with the mapping system, it allows people to see like what is in close proximity to be able to manage. And I really would encourage people to, if they love Halloween, to start as early as possible, which really, the Halloween season for Halloween New England starts the day after Labor Day and it goes until the middle of November. So, if it starts that soon, it means there really are events in the middle of September, that are worth going to, worth seeing. And it might be, it might not be an attraction, right? It could be an oddities marketplace or a ghost tour. There's a lot of ghost tours that are open all of September and sometimes often year round. So, those are things that you can enjoy, at all times of the year, even before some of the more seasonal attractions, start to open up in the middle of September.
Yeah, which I love. It's funny because it's always kind of annoyed me that, the day after Thanksgiving, Christmas decorations, or excuse me, the day after Halloween, Christmas
Yeah.
decorations go up everywhere. We're like walking through the South Shore Plaza on November 1st one year, and there was just Christmas stuff everywhere. And that always drove me crazy. But in that same sense, I love seeing Halloween stuff cropping up in,
Yeah.
mid to late September. Nothing makes me happier. So I'm a
Yeah.
hypocrite in that sense, I have to say. But
No, I
um,
definitely have been seeing it, popping up in early September too. And I this year, and I can't remember quite how early it was, but I saw that too this year, and I thought, whoa, I've definitely never seen it quite so early at this
yep.
time. Like, good on them.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So back to your website. I know you kind of mentioned that, this year you kind of revamped some things and did some new things. So is there anything that you'd like to do on your website in the future that you haven't had the opportunity to do yet?
Yes, but I don't know if I want to reveal it yet.
That's fine. You can keep it under wraps. I
Yeah,
totally
there were
respect
some
that.
things we were hoping to implement in time for this year. And, rather than implement them with the season underway, and work out squashing any bugs in the process, we'll probably, we'll kind of have a phase 2 with more features coming out next year. So I don't know if I want to reveal them yet because what I've learned is when we're, after all these years of Halloween New England, when I have the chance to rebuild the site from the ground up, like it really makes me think of how, like, what the potential of the site could be in terms of its value to people, the way people could use it, the way people want to use it, the way people didn't even know they needed to use it. And so we're continuing to kind of tweak it. And, I know that it'll be even, more, I don't know if powerful is the word, but just more versatile next year in terms of how the information is displayed and people can find things. So yeah, sorry to be a little coy.
No, that's totally okay. Totally all right.
Yeah. But stay
So I
tuned,
know,
right?
yeah, stay tuned. Exactly. So they call that a professional tease, Alexandra. So
Yes,
very good.
exactly.
Very good. So I know we talked about this briefly, but you kind of shared some information with me about you being what was it, a live prop in a haunted house
Mm.
one time. So I feel like I have to ask you about that. Can you tell that story?
So, well, live but not live. So so I have a friend who has a horror prop special effects company out. It was originally in Seattle and they've moved out of state. So their name is Ghost Ride Productions, and some people might be very familiar with their work. In fact, if you're a haunt fan, I'm sure you have seen their work because it is, their props are all
Yep.
over the haunts in New England, and certainly around the country and even internationally as well, or even on TV and film. And so one year, personally, I have, as I mentioned, my background is in theater, but never on the stage. I've never had any desire to dress up, be in costume, perform any of that.
Sure.
But I, love the creative side of things. And so, um, I've never wanted to act in a haunt or have that experience. And yet, my friend Michael Chaley, he invited me to become life casted, which essentially means that you have all these layers of silicone and casting materials put on you, and you have your whole body from head to toe casted and then turned, and then you kind of get literally cracked open like a cocoon, and that
Wow.
becomes a mold that they're able to turn into developing props in the shape of your shape and body in the position that you were in when you were casted. So um, I was so intrigued. I had heard that there was someone else who had done this kind of the year before. And I thought, wow, that sounds so cool that she was able to do that. And, that prop and that person is known as the Mindy Prop. So I'm sure, again, like there's the Mindy Prop is all over haunts in New England. It's the prop kind of laying on their side. It's a woman kind of laying on their side, curled in a ball. And sometimes, she's even in like a giant pumpkin, almost like coming out of the pumpkin. In fact, at Barrett's, you can see the Mindy Prop at the I don't know if the Mindy Prop is in the pumpkin at the Abington Ale House, but anyway, there
I know
definitely
exactly
have
what you're
seen it
talking
at,
about, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So they do, Ghost Ride is known for their like exceptional detailing on their work. It's just really, really high end, beautiful props. And so when I heard that the Mindy Prop was created, I thought, well, that sounds fantastic. Like that is right up my alley. And so when Michael invited me to come out to get life casted, it was, a full day process. And the first thing that they did is they just worked on casting my head. So I went into this, he had a position. He thought, this is a position that none of the props that we have is in. So this would be like a new position that we could kind of sell and adapt into different styles. So it was, in this particular prop, I'm kind of seated with my knees bent up near my chest and I'm hugging my knees and my head is like rested on its side, like the side of my cheek is on my knees. And so the first part is they cast my head. And this is the shorter process. So the whole head casting, I think, was about 45 minutes. And one of the unique things about it is when they cover you with the silicone, they cover every inch of you. I mean, every inch of your head. So the first step was they put me in a bald cap, which I'd certainly never had that experience before. So they covered my head, and I'm trying to think. I don't think my ears were covered. I can't recall. I don't think the bald cap covered my ears. I think it went around my ears. Maybe they had I don't remember, but they covered my whole head with silicone, including my eyes. So my eyes are closed and my lips are closed and everything's covered. And then the only thing, and I think they put like straws in my nose or like gauze to make sure that my nasal cavity was like my nostrils were totally open, because that would become the only way that I could breathe for the duration of this experience. So when they cover you and then they cover the silicone with like the, plaster cast, like just like you would if you had like a broken arm. And then
Yep.
you're in that experience. And the only way you can communicate, because you can't speak, you can't blink your eyes, you can only breathe through your nose, is to, use your hands. So there was one, so it took probably, I don't know, 6 or so team members of his to just handle this whole event. And part of it is it's very time sensitive, how fast the materials set on you. And then there was one team member whose only responsibility was just to monitor that my nasal passages would stay open the whole time, because of course that is the only way that I can breathe. And so their sole responsibility, while everybody else's hands were working to move everything around and cover me completely to get a good cast, was he just made sure that I could breathe at every step and nothing was ever blocking that ability. And so for me, it was this amazing experience. I loved being in that moment where, your ears are covered, your eyes are covered, you just have your nose to breathe in. You have no, I can communicate by, thumbs up or thumbs down, but everything suddenly, even the way that I could hear sounds were totally muffled, right? Because your ears are covered. So it just was this incredible like sensory deprivation.
I was going to say, actually, it sounds like being in like a sensory deprivation tank almost, that type of thing.
Turns out I apparently like. I did not know that. Turns out I really dig it. So,
Wow.
they would ask me very frequently, how are you doing, Alexandra? And I would give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. They would just constantly be, checking in with me to make sure that I was going through it. And of course, I always knew that there was, if I ever felt like I just can't, do this anymore, I would give a certain signal and they would just take me out right away. Right. But obviously the stakes are pretty high because you've got the whole day is planned for it. The materials are extremely expensive, and you really want to rise to the occasion to give them, the best mold possible. So you want to endure it. And so after about 45 minutes, they, removed my head, the cast on my head. And that was honestly a little sad because I quite enjoyed it. But I mean, if I didn't feel comfortable breathing through my nose for 45 minutes, I think it could, potentially for someone be a really terrifying experience. And then they cast my body. Yeah. So I had my head, totally free of any materials while they cast my body. And I was in that position, I have to say, like probably 2 hours in that one position. And, that is really challenging. Partly because, it's just uncomfortable to not be able to shift your body around. Your body weight is just pressing in the same positions, for the duration of the time. You can't take any little shifts or whatever because it will affect the mold. And then, then they put like the plaster on it and you get very warm. And so, the more heated you get, the more you're just like, okay. And then sure enough, they've seen this all before, right? So they've got ice packs that they like strap to my head to kind of keep me cool and, constantly checking in. And, there's a point where it becomes, so uncomfortable to be in that position that you really are, it becomes like a real mental endurance test of keeping yourself calm, of being able to last as long as you can. I was just really focusing on my breathing and, trying to stay as calm as possible because it just becomes after a point, really after that like hour point, is crossed, it's kind of painful, to be in that position. But
sure,
the good news is the prop came out. It's called the Alexa prop. You can find it on Ghost Ride Productions. And it is so cool to be able to see it. It is my favorite contribution to the Halloween industry right there. I cannot tell you like what an honor it is to have to like have a Halloween prop of me. And I'm so grateful to Ghost Ride for giving me that experience. There is no greater thrill than walking into a haunted house and seeing yourself there. Like,
That is incredible. Yeah.
it's crazy. And the wild thing is like they and so there's all these different variations, right? So there's like, the frozen frostbitten version, there's the asylum version, there's the, burned victim version, there's, one that just looks realistic. And the cool thing about it is like, so the very first time I came across it was at Barrett's actually. And they had like the staircase, and I think I was going up the staircase, and right in like the landing, I want to say there's like a corner that you turn on the staircase. And as I was going up the staircase, at the top of the landing was me, like on the floor, right there. And of course, like the beauty of the Ghost Ride quality is that you cannot tell that their work is not a human being. You just cannot tell whether it's real, real actor or fake. And so you have this moment where, I'm the only one who knows, hey, that's me, right? But if I were just a customer who didn't know that, like walking up the stairs, you think, oh, this actor's like just sitting in the middle of the stairwell. Like, are they okay? And I have since seen my prop at Haunted Overload. I've seen it at Legends of Fear. In Connecticut. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else in New England. I've definitely seen it at other places around the country, and Barrett's, of course. But yeah, that was a really unique experience.
I was going to say, yeah, I have to give you some serious credit. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. That whole thing that you were talking about, like being cast. It sounds, I have a little bit of claustrophobia, so I feel like that would be a little tough for me. So I got to give you some serious credit. But that is incredible to be able to see yourself at these haunts that you're walking through. It's got to be so cool.
Yes, it is. It is honestly like it is truly a huge honor. Like it was worth like. And I knew it even at the time, like it was worth just enduring, the discomfort. Like the discomfort was going to be temporary. Of course it was, right? But I just love seeing it, and it's exciting because he Ghost Ride usually has like one new big prop that they roll out every year, and then they show all the different variations of that prop. And so I remember I wasn't able to go the year that they revealed it at Trans World, but it just was exciting to know, like, oh, this is like the big debut of the Alexa prop to everyone in the industry of out in St. Louis. So
it's showtime.
Yeah.
So I know we're kind of getting up against it time-wise here, but I did have one final question for you. All right. So let's say that I am a traveler and I'm going to be visiting New England for a long weekend. In your expert opinion, because it is safe to say that you are an expert on all things Halloween New England related, what are some essential attractions that I should hit if I'm doing that?
Oh, that is so hard because it, of course, really depends on what you love. Well, if you're trying to fit in more than one in an evening, then I really, to me, like the really easy one to accomplish is to do like 13th World in Rhode Island, followed by Feartown in Massachusetts, because they're not super far from each other and they're both just a thrilling time. Like the actors are always amazing there. And so your voice will be sore at the end of the night if you make it through. If you're doing like, if you have the evening to just dedicate to something that is like so unique that you just won't find anywhere, then Haunted Overload is really, there's just nothing like it. It is so atmospheric. It is so immersive. It has so much imagination, and it's hard really to express how fortunate we are to have such a unique attraction in New England. Even next week, someone's coming from around the country to go to Haunted Overload with me. So, I know people who come from around the country every year, to go to this little pocket of New Hampshire. And it's just very, very Very unique. And honestly, like if you were to come, if that particular weekend that you are coming to this area, if you look at Overload schedule and you see, oh, they're doing Fright Light as opposed to the full experience, and like you shouldn't let that deter you, because even going through without actors on one of their Fright Light nights is, really super special. And, again, if you're already up in New Hampshire, then you have the option to go to their daytime haunt, which is a totally different experience. There are no actors, none of that kind of, scares in it, but you get to see the artistry in the daylight. And that is, just a beautiful way to spend an hour or so in New England in the fall with the leaves. And like, it's so stunning. If you're going to Connecticut, I mean, you could spend like a whole night at Legends of Fear, because they've got, the haunted hayride and the, and their trail as well. And that's like a full evening of things going on. If you were to do like two events in a night in Connecticut, you might hit up, like do a ghost tour with Seaside Shadows is, really easy to do. And then you swing through Dark Manor later, because they're usually open till about 11. And you can do both of those in an evening, which is, it's doable. It's a challenge, but it's totally doable because I've done it. There's so many, if you're in the middle of Massachusetts, you could go to Demented Effects. You could even do, I think I've done Demented Effects and McCrae's Haunted Hayride in the same evening, which are completely different experiences. So one is like much more of like a generational, family friendly kind of haunt. And one is, much more intense, like hard driving, adrenaline fueled. Like that's a really diverse evening if you were to fit both of those in. Barrett's is, an evening as well. But, again, you kind of, if you're traveling from out of town, you've solved your food problem because you've got the ale house right next door. So there's so much to see. And then, I would encourage people to really look into things during the day. My site will have all of those daytime activities. So there might be a pumpkin festival you can hit up. Flashlight core mazes are always really a blast too. There's just, really a lot to see. And I would encourage whoever comes to New England to, start on a Thursday and, leave on a Monday. So you can get, a Thursday night haunt, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and really make the most of it. Because you can drive everywhere. I mean, that is, there's nothing that's not within 4 hours, really, for the most part. And I mean, and 4 hours is like the extreme end of it. And there's so much within, like, assuming you fly into Logan and you're based in Massachusetts, there's so much within like 2 hour experience of driving. There's just, a great deal to see. And I hope that they would take full advantage every minute of it.
I think that was just a perfect summary of how lucky we are as New Englanders to live here in the Halloween season, because like you said, there is just so much to do. And there's a lot of haunts that I've hit up in the New England area and a lot that I still want to get to. And this just makes me that much more excited to do them all.
Hey, can I jump in with one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
That would help with that planning that, again, whether you're coming from out of town or you are local and you want to know what's happening. One of the unique features that I have been offering for a few years that people really value are, I have these guides for the Sunday, like which haunts are open on Sunday nights, which haunts are open on weeknights. So those guides are incredibly useful if you, for example, are coming in from out of town and you're like, well, not every haunt is open on a Thursday night, but this Halloween New England weeknight guide will tell me exactly, which Thursday nights, which haunts are going to be open. And like I put that stuff out early in the season. So that stuff's up in September. So let's say you're planning a trip, in September to come out in October, you'll know, who you can fit in on a Thursday night, who's going to be open, where that is. Same thing for Sunday nights. If you're a haunt fan, and you want to make the most of every season, you really have to go to things outside of Friday and Saturday nights to get every inch of the season, that you can. So, I encourage like the super fans out there who are listening, go check out the Sunday night haunt guide, check out the weeknight haunt guide. There are definitely there are tons of haunts that are open on Sunday nights, but not everyone, right? So you can kind of drill down on which ones are open. And early in the season, there are a couple. And then, of course, as October progresses, you have more and more and more. But If you love haunts, like you should definitely go on a weeknight where there's often a more personal experience and fewer lines. And then on Sundays, same thing, the lines can be less and, you might just get a really unique experience, but you'll get more out of your season if you are starting early and kind of maximizing when people are open.
Awesome stuff. And I would just say if you are looking to plan something for the Halloween season in the next couple of weeks, take advantage while you can. It's mid-October, folks. It is going very, very quickly, which makes me sad to say.
Yeah, I know.
But the website is called Halloween New England, HalloweenNewEngland.com. Alexandra, where can people find you guys on social media in addition to the website?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram and Facebook. That's the best way to find out about everything. We'll post special events and things that are coming up. So if you want to stay on top of, what our top picks for the week are, to kind of, drill down on what makes sense, to really, make an effort to get to, you can find links to all of that, not just from the website, but also on Facebook and Facebook and Instagram. And we have tons of contests. They're starting to wrap up right now, but that's an incredible way to be able to see new experiences that you might not ordinarily get to. So, if you're listening and it's still October, enter some contests on our homepage. It's a great way to check out something you might not, normally be on your radar.
Definitely. For sure. And there's always contests going on. So I would encourage you to check out their Instagram page for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to say thank you, Alexandra, for your time. This has been an awesome conversation. And again, you just kind of, not that I haven't been excited for haunted attractions, but I always am. But now I'm just even more. So we're going to VTHaunt next Friday. So
awesome. That's what I was going to ask you. Where are you headed this season? Where have you been and where are you headed?
So we did Barrett's already, and then we are doing VTHaunt next week, and then we're going to try and get to at least one more. I don't know if we're going to be able to, just because we have 2 weddings the remainder of this month, so it's going to be a little bit tight to fit everything else in, but I'll be sure to let you know. And I'll report back to you on VTHaunt, by the way. I know that was
so you
highly recommended by you.
Yeah, you should probably just ditch the weddings and go to haunts. I feel like you're not taking full advantage of this season.
I know. I mean, well, one of them I'm a groomsman in, so I kind of have to. And then 2 of my very good friends, so I have to put my haunt plans on hold, unfortunately.
All right. Well, weddings are usually not on Thursday, so you can go visit on that's Thursday night.
I like the way you think. Excellent.
Yeah. So
all right.
And there's so many great events going on the next couple of weeks right before Halloween ends. Like a lot of weeknight stuff. So, Mike, you gotta really take it up a notch. Running out of time.
I gotta put the pedal to the metal. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Alexandra, thanks so much again for your time. And I look forward to the rest of your content throughout the Halloween season. And again, the website is called Halloween New England. If you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you go and do that now.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was really a pleasure.
Oh, of course.
All right. Have a good.
Hey everyone, it's Mike from America's Hometown Horror, and just wanted to say thank you again for listening to another episode of our show, because of course, we would be nothing without you listeners. If you are interested in more local Plymouth podcasts, I would highly recommend you check out some shows by our cohorts on the Inebriart Podcast Network. That's right, the Inebriart Podcast Network, folks. In addition to America's Hometown Horror, you can find the Inebriart Podcast, Bar Talk, Theme Park Legends, Retro Redoctopus, and Old Colony Cast. Head on over and give them a listen.